Hi, welcome to the presentation on transparency through public reports. Today we have with us Ed and Tamra from the McKinney Public Library. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Good afternoon. It's hard to follow our wonderful presentation we had after lunch, but we're going to try our best. What we're here to talk about today is the use of public reporting to demonstrate transparency as it relates to municipal government and those kinds of things. Go on to our first slide here. Things began a few years ago. The city of McKinney and their council, new city manager, infinite wisdom, quite truly wanted the city to have a greater transparency in the way it was spending its money, in its utilizing of the resources that the city had. To that goal, they created a website, pushed out to all the different departments, had departments develop or gave each department goals and things like that. There is a website that the city maintains that has basic transparency information as it relates to each individual department. Does that help? I don't know. Does it help? I can't hear. Do I need to get closer to that?
I think that's the issue.
I can hear myself just fine, and nobody was acting like they couldn't hear me. Is this better? Okay, great. So, do I need to repeat anything, or are we up to speed? Through this website, it has things like graphs and charts that make a whole lot of sense for most municipal departments. The challenge was, how do we as a library come up with ways to do the same thing and fulfill these goals? Well, it was difficult for us to do through the city website, so we started thinking. Those of you that know Spencer, our boss, knows he is a idea person, and he will throw ideas and challenges out there constantly. And one of his ideas was he ran across one of these two articles. I don't remember which one he ran across. Sent it to me and said, "We need to do this now." And I said, "That's a great idea. Let's hold off and let's think about it." And so what we did is we, delayed a bit. I looked into it, read about it, learned a little bit more about JSON, learned a little bit more about how it all worked together, and then started down this road. As we got started, we realized that we needed to get some reports written that related to our topic. So what did I do? I brought in our reports person, and this is Tamra. She's going to now kind of talk about the way we put the reports together.
Hi, so raise your hand if anybody here has written a report, gone through where it walks you through to write a report, or maybe has edited a report. Right, so you guys know what we're talking about here, okay? So it's finding a report that you want to present to the public. So the first thing I have up there is to decide your goals. That's what we do for all our reports, right? What do I need? What data do I need? So here's my goal. Other thing you can think about is, what questions am I getting from my patrons? What are they asking me about the library? How many searches did you have this year? Do we have lots of new people? How much money are you spending on these books? I mean, all that kind of stuff that comes up, then staff has to find a report, see if they can find the answer, and then maybe they can find it for that patient. We are trying to make it so that the public can find that information without having to maybe go through a staff member. They can just get on the site, find out how much money we spent on books so far this year, find out maybe how many searches we've had, or whatever information that we think that the public may want, or hopefully that the public actually asks for. And as we post more, we're hoping that the public will ask for more reports. And then we know what to put up. Otherwise, it's just us guessing. What do they think? I mean, the things that we think are interesting as librarians may not be as interesting to the public. So that's the first thing. Then you have to create the report. So you don't have to start from scratch unless you want to. I like to start from scratch just because then I don't have lots of errors from a previous report that I may pull up that I wrote a long time ago. Maybe it wasn't as good. But the best way to do it is to find a report that you already have. Most likely the report you want the public to see, you already have on your system right now. So all you have to do is pull it up, make some changes to it, and then it's ready to present. Not quite that easy. I wish it were. I wish you could just put in a button, click, and it happens. Unfortunately, there's a couple steps to get it from Koha to where the public can see it. And the first thing you have to do is you have to make it public. So on the selection, when you edit, there's an option, make it public. Normally, I know I always put no. Don't want the public to see that. My report, I don't want anybody else to see it except maybe staff. So the first thing you have to do is make it public. Does that make it where they can see it? No. Still does not make it so they can see it. But it's a very important thing because if you don't do that, it won't work. All right, things to consider when you're writing your report, because he's going to cover all the other aspects of how to present the button, how to make it look. I'm just talking about how to get the reports in there. A couple of things we found as we were playing around with it. Koha is very interactive, and so are our reports. So when you pull up that report and you get to pick which location you want, which branch, maybe a time frame. I want to look at last month's data, or maybe the whole year. You get to pick that stuff. A lot of our reports, y'all's reports have that where you can pick things out. So unfortunately, with this, you can't. So it's a very static report. So your report has to be pretty specific. So if you want to know how much money we spent on books in the last fiscal year, you have to put in the date between the first and the end of the fiscal year. That's how we do it. We do it by fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts October 1. So we're getting to the end of our year right now. So you can do it two different ways. You can put first date, end date. You can put current date. It'll do current up to the current information. There isn't any information after the current date yet in your database, so it doesn't really matter which way that you do it. Also, you have to be really aware that everyone sees this report. Everyone. Imagine anyone in the world can get on the internet and click on this report. You don't want to have any personal data in that. No names, no addresses, no phone numbers, no emails, obviously, but also maybe no card numbers, no things. And sometimes I know in our report, when you pull it up, it's got those extra columns you don't really need. You could just delete those right off. It's good for aggregate data when you're pulling up to count things. How many patrons did we have come through? How many new cards did we put out this month or this year? Things that you can put up there that right now you have reports that don't ask you anything. You can just click run, it runs, and it gives you the data. Now this is great. You've got your report. You're all set to go. Make it public. You're very excited because the public's going to get all this information, right? Unfortunately, when you then go to the report page and you click on that link for JSON, it gives you a long list of just the data on the table, no titles, no subheads, no column heads. It's just a bunch of data. So now you get to do the next part, which is you get to make it look pretty and function.
All right, so you've kind of seen how we've gotten to this point so far. To make all of this work, there are a number of steps that you have to go through. And one of the first steps, we chose to have all of this data within our catalog. You know, that's where folks will be able to see it within the catalog, within our OPAC. So to do that, Koha has the CMS features. Anybody using that for any custom pages? A couple of folks. If you're not, there's some back-end stuff you have to do. I'm not going to go into that back-end stuff. Contact those folks or the community at large, and they can help you do that. Like I said, there's some steps to that. And I've got some links here to some community resources for that. Once you get that CMS built in the back end, then it's a matter of going to the right system preferences, adding in the code, and then creating or adding it to the OPAC. Instead of show you slides of that, I want to show it to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our staff client. I think that's right. It's going to make me log in. See if I. Thank you. All right, once you're logged in, all of this information is found under the local use, one of those system preference areas that you tend to skip because it's stuff that you don't usually use. Well, to do this, you will have to use it. I'm gonna make this bigger. All right, so once you've done that, there's a system preference in here where you have to go in and create these CMS pages. Once again, they can help you get these pages set up. We've got a couple of different ones created. I've got one for the JSON data, and right now I'm just calling it test page. Koha allows you to put all of your HTML in this little field. It is expandable, but it's just like the other system preferences for that. My recommendation is to develop all your code on a different code editor and then dump it in here when you're done with it. But that's where you do it. You can look at it. I took some, tweaked some, built all that. And I'm happy to share that. Of course, I got it off one of those. I got the core of that off one of those documents that I'll link to earlier. Once you have it all set up in here, it's a matter of going to the OPAC and linking to it. I'm going to go to our test site. We have a test site up, and I've added some additional links up here. And this is the way we want to display it to our patrons. Because the city has emphasized this transparency, it's been in the news, it's a big push. We're comfortable using that term here because it's something they're familiar with. So when they follow this link, it takes them to a page, and we've got some basic text here pulled from the other city page with a link back to the core city council priorities and all of those, the background for this project. I have some different buttons here. These are the 2 reports that we've started with. We've got about 6 or 8 in line that I'm building the reports to do and point to here. When a patron comes in here, clicks on one of these reports, they get a nice modal that shows all of the data that they're looking for. For example, this is our expenditures up to the minute, if you will. Well, it's too close to the end of September. We're not spending any money. But if we were still spending money, each time you ran this, theoretically, it would be keeping up with everything in acquisitions. But it shows the patrons, you know, what was budgeted, the amount spent, how close we were, all of these things. The other one that we've got, oh, I didn't. Where'd it go? The other report we have up here, we're still tweaking and working through what we'd like it to do. One of our big pushes is to acknowledge suggestions. And so we're looking at suggestions that we've received, how many we've accepted, how many we've rejected. We're trying to come up with better language for that right now, and because this implies that we reject just about as many as we accept, and we'd like to have some more explanation to that. Once again, that's just a simple matter of adding HTML to this individual piece of it to provide additional explanation. All the way you get these reports to show up, let me come back into that system preference. That's not the right one. Holding a mic and trying to scroll on this is, I got it. I'm learning to do things. Okay. In here, this is not easy to read. Yeah, that's close enough. You just create your basic HTML for the way you want the page to look, and then you add in, this is all this HTML is on that main page. So if I come over here, this is controlling this whole page. Within that, I've got the buttons, which you can see, where I've got a button here for this one, and it is creating kind of come on, fingers. There we go. You end up pointing to the report that each modal is looking for. Trying to find the report number in here, and I can't see it. It's in the, what is it? Can somebody see the report number? It's in there. This is why I don't like this editor. It's hard to see things. But okay, it's reporting to, it's relating to a specific report. Here's where you have to label each one of the individual table lines, all of those things. Had one issue that came up. There were a couple of places you have to do this for each individual report, and then you duplicate it out for the next report. So other than just pointing to the next report, you have to change a number of different pieces of that HTML. You basically have to relabel your IDs and a number of different things. And I was missing about 2 of them and struggling with it and fighting with it. And Lucas looked right at it, found them, and we got this going. It's great to be able to do that, to have somebody back me up like that. Where we're going from here, the next goal is to add the other reports that we have, as well as bring in our graphic designer, web development person, and begin to make this look pretty. That's where we're going next. So that now it's functional. Now it's a matter of making it look pretty and have more of an impact with the data. Thoughts, questions, comments up to this point? Anybody think this is something they might be able to utilize? Is anybody else doing anything with transparency? Is that kind of unique to our area, or is that something that a lot of y'all are thinking about? I know a lot of cities were doing it a few years ago, and all the big cities that had transparency stuff are now beginning to pull those off their websites. So I don't know if we're on the back end of the curve or what. Yeah. Sure. You won't have it on yours. You will have, what you have to do is go into local use, unless you have the CMS stuff turned on, and you go into local use, and then local use, once you have the CMS stuff turned on, you can create a new preference, and then that's how you create these custom pages down here. So, does that make sense? First thing you do is create it, and then that's how you get these different, mine is a page I created. Does that make sense? There's not much I can say about the back end, because there are literally some things that, unless you have command line access, you can't turn some of this stuff on. but they will do that for you. Once you get it turned on, it's a simple case coming in, creating a new, um, create an explanation for it, value, variable and valuable, a value, and those, as you see from here, just line up with the value is what the code is going to go into, and the what is that? The variable is the actual reference string. Let's open up. Biggest problem I had was getting the JSON to work. One of the issues I'm struggling with right now is we don't like this display much. It's not scaling properly. Every time I put in the CSS to do that, it either pushes this off to the side, or they just line up one under the next. And I may end up having to just have them line up. So, any questions? Yeah, what it's doing. Well, I was looking for the report number. It's in here. Should be about a 500. I'm just. Where is it? I'm having to go line by line to find it. Border. Yeah. That's what this is doing. What it's doing is it's grabbing the JSON from the report. If I go to the report, let me go to our reports, and I can pull the report number, and then I can, let's come here. Yep. Well, we're not the only ones, so. Yeah. Which one was it? There it is. So it's 549. So what it's doing is it's taking all of that, and then in that jQuery, it's just mapping all of this JSON data to those table data lines. Okay. And that's why it's having to point to the report, which is what, 546? Now I can probably find it. Thought I did that in a separate tab. I guess I did. Where is it? 546. Ought to let me search that. I'm not. Thank you. That's it exactly. Yeah, I've switched systems. That's why I can find it. Yeah, let me go back to this. I can get to the, let me go to the test. I don't think we have the, yeah. That's linking over to there, yeah. Yeah, I'll find out. I will, one of the things I had on, I left my laptop at home. One of the things I had on it was all of the code broken down, and I was just gonna pull that stuff up in a code editor, but I don't have it with me. But yeah, we can just break down that code and you can see where, because it just asks, there's just one little feature there that you put the report number in, and that's how it points to it. Yeah, because it's not internal. Yeah. Yep. Other questions? Thoughts? Any thoughts on what we could add to our list of reports? What do you all think of as transparent information? The big one for us is the money, where we're spending the money. And we want to eventually kind of tie that into circulation some as well, and be able to have some report that shows here's what we've spent in this area and here's the circulation we're getting out of it. But building all that gets a little more complicated. I was really excited with the Urungi presentation. I'd like to be able to bring some of that in as well, because we could build some neat reports in there, grab that SQL, use that as a report, and then pull it out that way. Yes. Yeah, that's kind of tricky, only because so much of our digital stuff isn't in our catalog, so it's hard to track that way. We do have, we've got the cloud library plugin where anything that is part of our cloud library collection pulls into our catalog, and it just shows as an electronic resource, full bib records and everything. With RB Digital, we are using its plugin as well, but it works more like the Overdrive one, where you click on it and it's kinda in there. Yeah, that was another one, and it said we had a list there. We were trying to figure out how we break that down rather than just by month, things like that. One of the issues we face is we have a lot of people from out of our city that use our library that are from adjoining cities. We'll give anybody within our county a library. So we have Plano and Frisco and other large Dallas areas there as well. And we'd like to break it down that way. Here are the folks that are new in our total service area. Here are the ones that are McKinney residents number-wise, and here outside of McKinney. That's the tricky piece, where we break that down, because the lines aren't that simple. Yes, and that's one thing with our particular area we're all pretty good about. We will, if we don't have something, and Plano and Frisco do the same thing. If they don't have something, we'll go into TechShare WorldCat, look it up, see, hey, they've got this over in Plano. It's one of their branches is as close to us as our other location. You know, and so we do a lot of that kind of stuff. All right. Sorry, I don't have 45 minutes worth of stuff to talk about. Anything else? Because what does the old joke say? I'm here for another 15 minutes. Yeah. Me personally, no. And I don't know what the stats are on the you're talking about the transparency and the public accessing of this information. All my information comes from the city manager, which says we're going to do this. Whether it's actually being utilized or not by more than a few citizen groups, I can't tell you. But you do what you're told at times.
And it is really handy. I mean, from living in McKinney, there's a lot of other departments as well. I can look up and they have it in a pretty nice format where there's there's not just data and tables, but also graphs and whatnot. You can easily see how many new projects planning is doing, how many new things are coming to thing, and it's a quick click, click, click. You can do it by department, and we do have some things within that area so that it's mixed in with that. But we also wanted to put it within Koha and when they're looking on the catalog and when they're looking for information specifically from us. So we kind of wanted to have it in both locations. Plus, those are really limited as to what information goes in. So you can kind of see these are the kinds of things depending on the department. They pick different things, and there's one of the things that you can do. So,
But you saw how deep that was outside of where our patrons are. And if we can bring it into where the patrons are, it might get used more.
yeah, and it may cut down on some of those questions. How do you spend my money? And we can go, hey, did you know we have this cool button that you can click and it'll show you right there? This is exactly what we spent up to the minute. Because we do get asked, hey, I don't see the books I want on the shelf. Where can I find them? Are you going to buy them? Do you have the budget to buy it? And we say, look, this is our budget and this is what we have to work with so that they have a much better picture of what we're working with. Because I think sometimes when you don't know the actual numbers on budgeting for any department, for any group, you don't really have a good sense of what you're asking when you say, don't you have more money to spend on buying more books? And you can say, well, let's look at that. Let's talk about what goes into the budget and how much we have to spend and how we kind of go about it. And sometimes I think some of these reports we're hoping will maybe bring some more conversation in. So maybe ask some more in-depth questions about things like that. Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a great idea that we could sort of do an average amount of what a standard book would cost depending on the collection. Yeah, I definitely think that would be a good thing. So they know that what $27,000 really means.
Had not thought about it. I don't think it would be. I don't. I cannot see any problems with that. Outside, nobody use it. That's the.
Yeah.
I do think of taking that same thought, and you know, you saw the city page there that had those graphs and stuff, giving. Now, this is assuming a higher level of web development from our web development folks, could take those links and turn them into better data there as well, using their tools. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yeah, you're talking about that, all of that data. Yes, and the idea is to take this page, and right now I've just brought in the city priorities, but the idea is to add content here that links out to more additional stuff. Yep. Oh, yep. Yep. That was before I handed the microphone over. You're good. Yep. Yep. That one.
Which I
Yes,
think is
yes.
why it's good to have it in more than one place too, right? And more on more than one website, in more than one way, so that people can access it from a lot of different places in case one of them happens to go down.
Oh, has everybody been through this? I've looked at the same stuff. Which one? Um, yeah. Yep. Well, theoretically, we can just grab any of these. Brown County. There we go. Yes. Yes. And what we have done, one of the, let me go back to this page. That was the initial thought behind. Sorry, I'm here. That's why we have things like material turnover rate in here. And you'll notice it's over a multiple year span. That's what we're getting. We're getting to these multiple year spans of looking at all of this stuff. Those, what we have up there right now are some basic reports to show that we can do this, make it, and begin to make it look pretty, put it into the hands where our patrons are. Most of our patrons aren't going into library, the library technology site and looking for this stuff. There are going to be a few that might, but generally the patrons in the city is more interested in linking back to the city type stuff. Not that that's not good information. It's great information. Yeah. Yes. 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 Nick? Yes. Once I consistently figure out how to make those charts work, then I will try to figure that piece out. Yes. Yes, you could. That would be some very complicated report writing. Well, so the results would have to have the links embedded in them because It's just pulling that data directly from the JSON, from that JSON results. So the links would have to be embedded in there.
You could maybe
And-
do it as a separate, it's like a separate report, like here's how much we spent and this is what it is, and then these are the actual books we bid, which would be another table, and you'd have to kind of,
There may be a way to embed those links in there. It's just, yeah. We're trying to walk before we run.
we're just starting, to get a hold of it.
And this is good and bad, but it seems to be the way everything is. You start to go down one path, you begin to generate some ideas, you have a decent plan to move forward, and then you listen to Paul talk about Yorangi, which can theoretically be a total change to the way we're thinking in here. And I've got to start trying to figure out how far down one path before you change, and All right, anything else? I think we've about filled in our 45 minutes. Do you have something, or are you just excited, Andrew? Okay. Okay, we're done. The end.